Hi, I'm joined today with Carly Jermyn, who is the founder and managing director of Woodstock Legal Services. Carly, we go back a long time now, and I'm delighted to have you on this special series for celebrating women in property and International Women's Day. I think our journey goes back to probably maybe 2016, around about then, when you were starting out and actually exhibited at a show in Southampton with us. So I still have lovely memories of that and your launch. But Carly, you've done so much in this sector now and have created such an amazing business and service for landlords all throughout the UK. So I wanted to have a chat with you. Also an award winner. You've won several awards at the Landlord Investment Show Awards. So it was very fitting that we have this conversation today. Really, Carly, what I wanted to find out first was, what was your first move in property and what inspired it?
Even before Woodstock, and that's a whole nother story, I grew up, my dad was a landlord himself. And we talked earlier about going to visit those properties, HMOs in the 80s. And so I acquired my first rental property from my dad. I remember the corporation tax rules were changing and he was like, quick, I need to get rid of this one. And I, back when it was much easier to get a mortgage, I did. And that was my first experience as a landlord, which, I was very young. I learned a lot. And even, with my lawyer, knowledge and background, it's still tough, to manage that stuff. And we've talked previously about, experience I had with that property in terms of like it being cuckooed twice, and dealing with it, now I wouldn't necessarily have picked that property in that particular area. It's really important, and I learned a lot from, if you're building a portfolio, where you build it and what sort of properties you take on. So, I grew up in that little world and I had my rental property. And then, fast forward to, Woodstock. And qualified as a lawyer and decided actually my first child arrived that there was a better way, I think, for me personally, to do the work I wanted to do as a lawyer. And I did a lot of work. I was a property litigator, and a lot of the work I did was in the private rental sector. And it's become such a niche, highly specialised area. It wasn't, many, many years ago, and you could do it along the side of doing other property litigation. Okay. You can't now do that. And I think I saw that window of needing that really niche specialist advice for agents and for landlords. And Woodstock was set up with, co-founder Tamsin Ledger, who was, still works with us, is an absolutely awesome transactional lawyer. And she'd do the commercial property work and some resi work as well for developers, etc. So we created Woodstock, and I did the litigation stuff and she was doing the transactional work. We realised, with our roots in property and what we'd created as a model offered the opportunity to other property lawyers, whether it was litigation or, transactional work, to deliver the service they want to clients outside of the traditional legal model. And it provided, so much opportunity. So Woodstock's roots were always in property. And now our consultants that come under our umbrella and work, in the Woodstock regulated ecosystem, should we call it community, we offer everything now that's, family law, private client, company commercial work, employment law as well. Amazing. So it's evolved, it's a journey and it's evolved.
Yeah, and quite interesting really, because obviously, being a mum and, having first child coming, it was like you had to really rethink how that was going to work for you.
I just couldn't see how I would do that well with a child in such a rigid system that is a traditional law firm. I needed that flexibility, and then we created it for us, and then other people have seen that flexibility. And initially we did just attract women or people towards the end of their career, but now it's opened up to others. And I think one of my most proud moments is when I've had dads that have joined as consultants, and their reason for joining is because the flexibility of how we work allows them to support their wife's career who may not be in law. So that for me it wasn't just a women coming to consultancy because it supported them, it was men going, this supports me, my family and my wife as well.
Yeah,
so that's
amazing.
Been awesome.
That's amazing. You've created something that's created an flexible working opportunity for everyone. So it's great. So when you obviously started, what was the sort of did you face any barriers when you were starting out?
I laughed when I said this because I said no, I don't think, but then I guess I think that's why it's been successful. I don't see things as barriers. I see them as maybe a challenge. And yes, of course, it's challenging. Running a law firm is incredibly challenging. Being a lawyer is incredibly challenging. We're in a very highly regulated environment, and you want to deliver a high level of service to your clients. So yeah, it's a tough environment, but I wouldn't say they're barriers. It's just challenges, and I think you just have to tackle them head on. Yeah. And look for new and inventive ways to deal with these challenges, rather than just doing it the way it's always been done.
Yeah, I think my mum always used to say, "Ask a busy person, and they normally get it done."
Yep, yeah,
so
it's true.
That is true. So really, how have you seen the industry change since you sort of started out?
Yeah, I mean, taking private rental sector specifically there, like I said, I think previously it was one of the easier pieces of litigation to do. It's not anymore. It's become very complex, with particularly Section 21. So I don't think there's going to be any lawyer that's going to be sad to see the back of a Section 21. People don't realise the amount we check before we can confirm if a Section 21 notice is valid. So the detail behind the law, and it's not necessarily the black and white of the law, it's how the courts are approaching it and whether there's an element of risk. And that 10-minute hearing that you've got, making sure it's perfect, because the courts have got very slow. They've just slowed down again and again and again over the years. So you have to be perfect. So the standard of the work that the team have to deliver is really, really high.
Yeah, I can imagine. And it's that's only going to get worse, isn't it, with the systems?
Yeah, I mean, yes, but I think it does go back. I think, Renters' Rights Act, I think with the reforms coming, I think the one good thing is it becomes more about the legal position, not tick box exercising. Yeah. But, not a tick box exercise. Yeah. So it's much more about the legal and the right position, and,
Yeah, makes perfect sense. So, I mean, what would you say is one of your most proudest moments of your journey?
Yeah, I think having gone from, myself, one agent client, I remember pitching to that agent who we still do work for now, and saying to them, look, I'll help with all your evictions, I'll help with your notices, to see that agent still being looked after by the team that we've developed. And then Anna joining us, and she joined very early on the journey, and now she leads that team. So to watch her lead that team, and then the people that have joined since that are now experts in their field, and they're doing work, across the country, and really enjoying working in the private rental sector as well. And the awards that they've won, really showing that niche expertise, which I think is just fundamental to the legal service that you deliver in the private rental sector now. Yeah,
amazing. So why should more women get into the property sector?
Yeah, I think if I sort of put my lawyer hat on Woodstock, I think working as a solicitor in the private rental sector or for a consultancy, I think what it gives you is that flexibility. And then I can also see as, an investor that we work with, the flexibility that gives you as well. You're not chained to a desk 9 to 5. Yes, it's hard work. We're not getting away from that, but it does give you flexibility about where you spend your time, which I think is, in this day and age, particularly people that have got families, or even not families, and they've got other demands, whether it's, parents to look after or other responsibilities that you do tend to have as a female, and also trying to look after yourself, do your exercise, all of that stuff. I think flexibility gives you that much better sort of all-round work-life balance.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you've got 3 sons, haven't you? So you are exceptionally busy. And how old are your?
They are 7, 9, and 11.
Yeah. So all at different times, all at different needs. And it's often, and the men do an amazing job. This isn't about beating up the men, but it's busy. So how does a typical day for Carly go if the boys are at school? Like, how does that look for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's carnage, it's chaos. 3 boys, as you can absolutely imagine, is chaos. But I think you've got to be a bit okay with chaos. And I'm certainly not a micromanager or a control freak, which I think helps, because I think if you've got 3 boys, that goes out the window anyway. But I think it's changed so much. When they were younger, I was able to control it a little bit more because I was in charge, and I decided, they went to nursery, or, they were with me at home, and I managed my work around them. Now they've all got their own agendas. They've got their, their own social life, their clubs, and so you have to adapt and you have to change. And you have to kind of, be okay in the chaos a little, and lean on other people. My mum is incredible. I've got friends that are incredible. My husband, you can't do it alone. And I think, that whole thing, you have it all. yes, you can, but it is really hard and you do need support to be able to do it.
No, I agree.
And I think one of the best things I've ever learned is with the kids that it's quality of the time, not the quantity. And it's about when you're there being really present and parking work. And I don't always get that right. But, you know, for me, that's really key.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's, you know, when we started this business, can honestly say I was so lucky. You know, my mum was instrumental, and if it wasn't for my mum and the network and my friends and the mums at school, you know, I was that mum that was always running to the car, you know, back to the school gate, or you know, I'm running late, and can you grab them, get them in the car. My mum was on hand, so no, it's busy. It's a busy one, but we do enjoy it.
And I think, you know, you will drop the ball now and again, and actually I always say that it will make my kids more resilient because I'm not able to do everything for them, so they're quite independent kids, and I love seeing that, and they're boys that see a woman working hard, and that's as important as their dad working hard. So for me, that's about them respecting that as they grow as well.
100%.
And being able to do stuff themselves as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, get that washing machine going and the dishwasher on. Absolutely. So one piece of advice that you would give women, like, you know, starting in property at the moment.
I think if you're, you know, particularly looking to invest and, you know, have property portfolios, I think knowledge is really, really key. We say this all the time, but it's so important to really understand what you're entering into, and what market is right for you, whether you're looking at commercial property, whether you're looking at residential property, and making sure you've got that base knowledge. And then you've got trusted advisors around you that will help you, and people that, you know, whether it, you know, this is not a selfless plug for lawyers, but lawyers that will give you really honest, practical advice, and that you can build a relationship with and will communicate with you, and have the time to spend with you, you know, when things go wrong, and that you're not just kind of a number to them and a file, you're a person. So building, you know, and that applies the same as your accountant and, you know, everybody else. Building those trusted advisors around you and building your network so that you can constantly learn from other people, and then, you know, learning from your mistakes. You make mistakes, you've got to learn from them. You do it better next time.
So Carly, so what's your rise factor, and what makes you rise as a woman in property?
I think I've not been afraid to break the mold and try and do something, not necessarily just do it the way it's always been done, and try and stop and look and go, okay, what's the best way to do this, rather than just blindly following how it's, you know, how others do it, and look at the way that it works for you, and if it worked, you know, exactly how it worked for me has then worked for others as well. And I think resilience is really key. I would say, you know, I was fortunate enough to grow up in a household where my mother worked as well, and, you know, I've always been a very resilient person. I've had to deal with stuff myself, and you will absolutely have challenge after challenge, and there's some days you think, God, you know, and juggling 3 kids, can I still do this? You know, the business gets bigger, the demands get higher, you know, the risk gets bigger as you grow, but you know, it's that resilience and knowing it's, you know, it's a snapshot in time, and you learn from it and you move on and you go again.
Yeah, amazing. Well, that's so lovely to catch up and just, so I think what you've done is incredible, and I think what you've created is incredible, and it's created a flexible working space, you know, professionals like you, Carly. And well done you, and it's great to have you on, and
thank you.
We're looking forward. We've got lots going on this year, haven't we? We've added more to our to-do list.
And everybody else's.
And you'll see Carly and the team from Woodstock, you know, at the shows this year, and we'll put some links in. But thanks ever so much for joining me, Carly.
Thank you, lovely to see you.
And you.
Take care.